me, your host, Sean Lynn, in the pub for a Dram with Friends, where we talk about faith, family, food, and fun. Pull up a chair and I'll pour you a drink. Episode 16. We welcome Andre Regnier, co-founder of CCO, who is leading youth to Christ. Sit down as we pour a dram and enjoy his company. Welcome to another episode of A Dram with Friends. We are very blessed to have Andre join me in the pub tonight. Welcome, Andre.
It's great to be here.
Oh, he's already got it poured. Well, I do my research. I'm fairly sure Regnier is a French name, so I actually have a bottle of French whiskey. So it's called Black Mountain. I bought it by mistake because they said it was on this great sale, only to find out it wasn't that great sale, but it's still a decent whiskey.
Yeah. Do you have a lot of whiskeys?
Well, I don't know if you can see behind me there, Andre.
Yeah. I'm seeing it.
Unfortunately, it's been a bit of a rabbit hole doing the research and in-depth reviews of all these whiskeys so that I'm prepared to interview famous men like yourself.
Well, yeah, I don't even know what this is. I know it's a Scotch. It was a gift that I got 3 days ago because my birthday, 4 days ago. And so they bought me a bottle of Scotch, and it's really good. Good stuff.
Well, happy birthday, belated. Yes, I saw that on Facebook. Congratulations, the big 6-0, eh?
Yeah, it's interesting. It's funny because our parish, they're doing, I think it's a great initiative. What they're doing is they're calling all the seniors and finding out how they're doing over COVID. I got a phone call today because I'm on the list. So they wanted to find out how I was doing. I was doing pretty good. I just ran 10 kilometers. I'm doing pretty good, you know. But yeah, so I know I'm getting old when the parish calls me to look at, find out how the seniors are doing. I'm no longer young anymore.
Well, we know that you're young at heart because of the mission that you've been doing. But for the people that don't know, who is Andre Regnier?
Well, Andre Regnier is from Saskatchewan, from Prince Albert, born and raised. I went to the University of Saskatchewan. I met my wife in 1987. In 1988, we started up a movement called Catholic Christian Outreach, which is a university student movement, searching out those Catholics who have wandered away and find a way to kind of re-engage them in the faith. We have 3 are married, and so now we have. So yeah, I'm not only 60 years old, I am a grandpa too. So like the spectrum of age, there I am. I'm old because I'm a grandpa, and now we're living. We've been living here for 17 years. Office is here now, and so yeah, that's Andre Regnier in a nutshell.
Well, that's awesome. So what you're trying to tell me is that I'm old because I've got grandchildren as well.
Yes.
I've got 8 children, and we're expecting our 11th grandchild here next month. So
really, you got me beat by 5.
Well, we started young. You talk about 1988. That's when our 3rd child was born, our son TJ. So for our U.S. friends who don't know it, CCO is akin to focus, and Canada's been doing it longer, thanks to Andre and his beautiful wife, than focus.
Yeah, we're the older brother.
Setting the right example. It could be because we're from the land of Saint Joseph, and
or it could be that I'm just a lot older.
Are you feeling your age right now? Is that what I'm hearing? Or
well, I mean, when I celebrated my 50th birthday, I was actually quite excited about it because it's almost like I felt like I was growing up. I'm 50 years old now. I've got wisdom, but turning 60 was a different feeling. But it's actually not been too bad. I still can walk up the stairs, and I still can hear and see properly. Things haven't changed dramatically since I turned 60, but yeah, I'm not feeling my age, but I now know I'm 60 years old, which is not a bad thing, but it's something to get used to.
Well, and I saw that you talk about your 50th birthday. You spent that in Uganda, from what it was showing on your Facebook feed today. So
Yeah, it was about 10 years ago that we went to Uganda for the very first time. And I remember going there. I don't know if it was on my birthday, but it was 10 years ago that we went, and it was a great trip. And we left Uganda knowing that they're an amazing people, but they're ready to really engage in the work of evangelization, which is much needed on their university campuses as it is here. But their commitment to it was very encouraging. So we felt like we had to be a movement that would support what they're doing. And so for the last 10 years, we've been supporting, encouraging a number of young Ugandans to do the work of evangelization on, I think it's 5 campuses now.
Sharing your wealth and knowledge. That's awesome. When I turned 50, my 50th birthday, I was actually in Italy, in Venice, with the boys rugby team. We were touring high school rugby team. We were touring Italy, and that was my very first time in Italy. And so I needed the glasses. That's what I remember. Turning 50, I got glasses. That was my starting down the age thing. So
actually, I actually don't really need my glasses. Well, yes, I do, but I'll put these in instead.
So I'm still a couple years away from 60. So I'll be phoning you for some advice how to enter into that. And we've done a couple things together. God Squad has supported CCO as much as we can out here. I know we've lent our barbecue trailer to them to go to the USC back when Ian was here. And you guys did something incredible a couple years ago by bringing the relic of St. Francis Xavier to Canada and bringing it across Canada. And that's where you and I formally met. That was, can you share what that was all about?
Well, yeah, that was an amazing 1 month. Actually, it was 40 days. It was interesting. But a year prior to that, we were asked by the Archbishop here in Ottawa. He encouraged us to ask for the arm of St. Francis, which is enshrined at the Jésus in Rome. And people just don't take that relic and borrow it for a month and then return it. It's rare that it leaves the Church of the Jésus, and especially if lay people are the custodians of it. So asking for it was kind of like asking, I don't know, what would be, something we might ask, like the maybe going down to the States and asking for the Constitution, borrow it for a month. They're not going to give it to us. That was kind of our feeling at the time was that, they're not going to, if we ask for it, especially in January in Canada, St. Francis has never been in freezing temperature. I can guarantee you that. But we asked, and the Holy Spirit, St. Francis, I think, wanted to come to Canada, a great missionary territory. So we're given the go ahead, and we began to plan because we knew this would be bigger than anything we'd ever done before. It would be national, and it would be very much focused in on parishes in the diocese across Canada. So we had a lot of work, and we had a short time to do it, like a couple months to plan. But we committed ourselves, as CCO always does. We put 110% into the project we feel God is asking us to kind of invest in. And that's what we did. So it arrived on the 27th of December at Rise Up conference we're having here in Ottawa, where there was 1,000 young people, and it was a memorable experience. But what was really interesting was, we had all the different TV networks like CBC and CTV, and they're all kind of hovering around the relic that night, but throughout the 40 days that we were in Canada, going on pilgrimage across Canada. So yeah, it was an exciting time. The thing about this relic, which is unique, at least from my perspective, is there are a lot of incorruptible relics. I mean, not a lot, but there are many in the church. There are saints that are incorrupt, but usually they're behind, like they're in a casket, or you can't really see them, or we get a little bone or some kind of indicator that you have to look closely and see if it's there, or you have to have faith that the relic is behind the wooden box that we're moving around, still as anointed, and the graces are there. But what's unique about this relic is that you could see it. It was like probably 2 feet high, and it was his hand, and you could see it. His arm from his finger down to his elbow, and there was a little bit of decay happening. But when people approached it, they felt like they were looking at something extraordinary, because it was not left to imagination, but they could see it before their eyes. There it was, the hand that baptized 200,000 people. So yeah, it was an exciting, a great anointed time for us.
Well, and I know when you came to Calgary, it was incredible. I helped coordinate the security for you, and the lines of people that were coming and nonstop, and I know it grew as it went across the country, and you got way more numbers than you anticipated. But what was really cool was taking it on to the university campuses that you did, and sharing it with the young people. And I invited friends working at the university to come and join us. And one of the things that I did was I touched my motorcycle vest to the hand, because that's what we're using our motorcycles for on our tours, is to go evangelize. And we actually showed up in Ottawa last summer, and you and your family put on a beautiful crepe brunch for us, and you're the crepe master apparently.
Well, it's actually my mother passed it on to me. I mean, when we were growing up, that was Sunday morning. She would actually, we often did it at dinner time. She would make crepes, and we loved it. We often throw a lot of syrup on and just enjoy eating the crepes Mom made. And so I took that on upon myself, but I added some ingredients. Like I put a lot of Baileys in it. My mom didn't do that. So unfortunately, you have to have a certain age to eat my crepes, and I shouldn't have been feeding you guys my crepes, because you guys are going from this meal to to riding bikes, and you might have been a little bit intoxicated, but it wasn't that much.
Yeah, no, it was it was
But I'll tell you this much. You guys ate an incredible amount of crepes that day. We had sausages, we had hash browns, we had absolutely everything. And we've never seen so much food consumed like in a 15-minute time limit. Like it was we were shocked because we didn't have any leftovers. We were expecting mounds of food. 8 packages of bacon.
what? Come on. That must have been
8
Jeff Cavins. It must have been him because I
Well,
was a perfect gentleman, you know.
yeah, I saw your plate. It was
Well,
looked more like
I may have to get your recipe because my grandkids every time they come over, Papa, make some crepes, and it takes a while to you're standing there for an hour making crepes nonstop to try and feed all those kids. So
yeah. Well, it is. But to me, I enjoy it. For me, it's an experience. I enjoy the process.
yeah,
So it's what I do. Like Sunday morning at certain times, Christmas morning, there may be 4 or 5 times a year that I make crepes, and it's my thing. And so it's kind of like it's my time, my morning to shine. And I put as much Baileys as I possibly can.
and I tell people you're cooking for Jesus because it's a way to show love to your children. It's funny. I was talking to a young man today in my office who's in the foods at school. He had to do a project for me. He had to watch one of the series on heroicmen.com and come give me a report in exchange for not getting a ticket. And I talked about how when my older kids were young, that Saturday mornings, Dad made his sourdough pancakes, and we watched Saturday morning cartoons, which isn't even a thing anymore, but just creating that atmosphere for our kids to have memories growing up, and it's so important for dads to do that.
Yeah. Well, I don't know, Sean, you know that we wrote a book as a family. I don't know if you're aware
Yeah,
of that.
brick by brick, I think it's called, isn't it?
Yeah, brick by brick, how to raise children that won't lose their faith. And the book was written by all our children. We wrote it together. What we would do is go to Mass on Sunday, we'd come home, have brunch, and then we go into the living room and we would talk about, because people requested that they wanted us to write something, teach them kind of what we did with our children, so that when they raise their children, they would, what can we teach them so that they could, raise their children that keep their faith. And so we talked about it as a family, and we decided, that we would all write it together. So everyone kind of had their piece, but we wanted to speak of, or have the book focus not so much on here's how you raise children, but principles on how to raise your children. We do it, we have different methods of raising our children, but there are basic principles. And one of the principles you just shared is creating memories. Like, it is so important that, especially as fathers, that our role is actually to create memories, or like you could say, traditions.
Yes.
Like, this is what we do as a family. And create it so that it's not so much imposed upon them, but it's something that would be what they want. It kind of meets them where they're at, rather than me say, okay, like at the Feast of St. Joseph, this is what we're going to do on Feast of St. Joseph. Rather, making it so that they would want to celebrate the Feast of St. Joseph. Or, like we often do St. Patrick's. And what we do is all the food is green. Now, for a young child, they may not know a lot about St. Patrick's, but they remember St. Patrick's Day. They remember the green. And so when they're ready to talk about St. Patrick's and learn about him and be inspired by him, Well, now they're ready.
That's
They already have an attachment to him.
that's so important to build that in your children. What's funny is like the Easter Vigil. Our kids were the ones that demanded we go to that more often than us, because we had gone to so many that was a tradition. And I'm going, but it's a really long mass. How many kids want to go to a 3-hour mass? But because of the traditions that you build up, like you say, this is what we do, right? And what's one of ours is we do the outdoor Stations of the Cross at our parish, where we come up from the river bottom on Good Friday all the way to the church. And then we go over to my mom's house, who makes fresh hot cross buns for us. And that's something that they all want to do, right? Because they get to walk with their friends.
Exactly.
So you're identifying stuff that are basic elements that dads can put in their toolbox right now and use them with their children. And that's what's going to help curb the tide, because something like 75% or greater kids stay in the faith if their dad practices the faith. So
and you want to make sure, and another principle in the book that we communicate is that the faith has to be brought down to their level, not our level. That's a tendency sometimes with fathers or just parents that are really, committed to the faith, and they're really inspired by the glory or the richness of being Catholic and living out the great treasure of the Catholic Church and our faith. And so we want our children to experience what we're experiencing, so we impose our experience upon them. And I think that's one reason we've turned even the faithful parents, their kids walk away so easily, is because we're imposing where we are at spiritually upon them when they're only 3, 5, 10, or 15 years old. That we need to be cognizant of the fact that we got to come down to them and meet them where they're at, and then present the faith in such a compelling way, a life-giving, relevant way, that they would say, this is attractive, this is relevant, this is not something that it's my parents are doing, this is something I can do. This captures my imagination. And when we do that, as they grow, they can embrace more and more, because it's kind of age appropriate.
Well, and you're talking about basic evangelization, even, because you're not going to go and say, hey, can I tell you about transubstantiation? You're going to go and God loves you and has an amazing plan for you, right? And start the conversation where they're at. And what was interesting was I was doing the search study with the CMLA leadership, and one of the guys said we need to evangelize before we catechize, because we see it in our kids where they get catechized, but they don't understand why, and it's here and gone. I got my first communion, I'm out of the church, or my confirmation, right? And whereas if we evangelize, which you guys have done incredibly well with CCO, reaching out to young people across this nation and planting seeds, what you guys have done is incredible. And I've worked with Youth at Risk, and having an avenue for people to turn it at that age is so important. And I can't say enough about what you and your lovely wife have done in the 31 years, is it, of CCO? 32. Okay, I was close. So one of the segments, when I talk about young people, young men especially, are struggling even understanding what manhood is. So what advice would you give your 18-year-old self?
You know, um, when I was 18, I was living a life. I was very much enjoying my life and not too involved in the faith, if you know what I mean. Meaning I was drinking, partying, I was out there. I was, the guy, and I was living recklessly and enjoying it. But inside I had a real soft spot for God. Like I wanted to be spiritual, but nobody talked to me about that. Nobody invited somehow that interest or that desire for God. Nobody invited it to come and become part of me. Nobody was inviting me to live my faith in a relevant and kind of a life-giving way. So if I would go back to my 18-year-old self, I'd say, hey Andre, can I tell you about something? That Jesus, God, you are loved by God, and he loves you and he calls you to himself. And so Andre, he's in you, you're feeling, you're desiring it. All you need to do is to say yes to him. You don't have to get all that spiritual. You just have to get um you have to give God permission in your life in a very intentional way. Just say yes to him. Just cry out to him and just allow him to be Lord of your life, and then allow him to do the work of making you the man that you should be. Because that's a decision I made when I was 21. But when I was 18, I was ready, but nobody was talking to me about the faith in any personal or compelling way. So I go back there and say what my heart actually longed for, and that is a relationship with God, make my faith real and relevant.
Thank you so much. And then we've got one other segment is Jeff talks about riding with your posse, your saints. What saint do you ride with or do you take with you every day?
There's a whole list that I take, but the one that I identify, well, there's two. Actually, there's a lot. I can't really limit it, but St. Francis Xavier is a guy that I think um, captures my heart and my imagination and walks with me the closest. So St. Francis Xavier, but also St. John Paul II was so influential in those early days of CCO. Everything he was saying just resonated with me. And then how he led the church during his pontificate, like he captured my imagination, but imagination is so many young people, and there's so much good in the church because of what he was able to inspire, focus, and many other movements like net ministries, because of John Paul II's invitation to be the saints of the new millennium and to be courageous and to be evangelical in what we do. So he is, a great giant for me, like a guy that a saint that not only do I look back at, but every day I just say, John Paul II helped me and all the students to be the new builders of the city of God within the city of man. So I would say St. Francis Xavier and St. John Paul II, but there are others. Mother Teresa.
Yeah. And that's the thing. The 1-2 punch though that you shared, like men can can attach themselves to those saints, and they are so good to walk with. It, like you talk about St. Francis Xavier, every time I put on that vest to go out on the road, it reminds me that I'm on a mission of evangelization. So I want to thank you for all you have done and continue to do. We look forward to working with you with God Squad and Catholic Men's Leadership Alliance, as we talked about maybe recruiting some of your retired CCO missionaries, because this is a perfect missionary field for them as they continue to grow and walk with the Lord. And where's my glass here? So whiskey is Irish, is Ishkabaha. That's the origin, which means water of life. And my prayer is that you and I continue to lead souls to the true water of life in this world. So thank you for all you do.
Mine's empty.
That's okay. I had some to the end. So
you keep up the good work also.
Thank you. We're going to keep using whiskey and whatever else we need to do to evangelize those around us.
Amen.
So if you've enjoyed this episode of A Dram with Friends, please send us any suggestions at adram@godsquad.ca or go to godsquad.ca to support this mission.